नमस्कार, मी दीपक शेडगे या माझ्या यूट्यूब चॅनलवर आपणा सर्वांचं मनपूर्वक स्वागत.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul, if you can pick up your... Well, I need to ask you some questions. It's very critical for us. As India grows into esports in particular, what are the three key ingredients that Indian policy should have to build esports leadership in India?
Thank you very much, Ashish, for this question. Thank you for the opportunity. I think, for sure, the talent we saw this weekend, the talent development, the skills development of esports is critical. The ecosystem and the infrastructure is really, really important. And I was delighted to see this weekend. Some of our community were really surprised to see that this weekend around the quality of the digital infrastructure that we have here and the quality of the facilities that we have here. But the other one that we should address, the third one, would be the actual, I think that's very exciting and something that we're starting to invest in ourselves, is actually around game development. The publishers, as many as you know, just like sport, let's take a sport, one of my sports I love, rugby, or let's take cricket, it's one of the sports I've played. You know, the sport is owned or governed, or the rules are developed by an international federation. Global Esports takes our responsibility seriously in respect of that. But the publishers, of course, own this incredibly valuable intellectual property, this IP. And so one of the things I'm very excited about is supporting and investing in game development. It's a very, very expensive exercise, it's an ambitious exercise, but it's happening in, it's getting less expensive and more creative and more energizing. And it's something that I think that we should take seriously, because what's interesting, if you allow me, Ashish, to say this, that most games, as opposed to sport, like for example the game of golf, took 120 years to get into the Olympic movement, 120 years. And we'll see cricket in the games in Los Angeles 2028 in the Olympic Games. Most game titles are relevant for around about 7 years, around 7 or 8 years. They start to sort of peak out and drift off a little bit, and you'll see different editions each year. But that's a very expensive investment. So we're looking to invest heavily, and this is why I think India could be very exciting with your organizations and all of you to invest in the creative economy.
Thank you very much. In fact, let me tell you, between IICT, GDI, that's the Game Developer Association of India, and FICCI, we actually have come together in partnering in developing the gaming and the game creation ecosystem. Presently, India has 800 gaming studios, and we are actually working towards building an ecosystem of 5,000 gaming studios by 2036. And that's the target that we have set up. We are working hard into different states. Presently, India is going to have the Create in India vision. At the same time, we have policies for AVGC XR, that's animation, visual effects, gaming, comics, and extended reality. Presently in 12 states. Maharashtra leading in with one of the best policies. And we soon are going to have policy in 7 other states. One of the important factors of the policy, I must tell you, is that for the first time ever, we have been able to convince the governments, at least the state's government, we are talking to the central government, that the intellectual property of animation, gaming, or film should be recognized as an asset class with a valuation to be given as a collateral to the bank for fundraising. And that's going to be a landmark change into the ecosystem. I want to ask you one more quick question, is having a population of 140 crores in India, the fan engagement and fan management is something that is the most critical factor, because when you actually develop athletes, you have publishers, and you have tournaments. India has seen unprecedented growth with IPL, which is led by, actually the broadcasting is led by, Kevin Buzz and his company. The issue is that we have seen a huge engagement. In esports, it's actually global engagement with different types. FIFA has actually shown us some way. What are your thoughts about fan engagement and fan management in India? How the ecosystem should concentrate on that?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's a complex one. I think that in esports we have what we call games by genre, different types of games, right? So one of the great things we saw this weekend in Mumbai at our Global Esports Games is something called Jet Festival, the festival of gaming. And what was I found myself, I grew up around console games and some traditional games that some of you in the room would remember, but I found myself in this Jet Festival zone, and it doesn't surprise us because when we were younger, playing games is very human. It's an incredibly human thing. We all play games, And so I found myself contemplating this in the fourth industrial revolution. It doesn't surprise us we're playing games electronically. But I also found myself in this gaming festival, this Jet Festival we call it, and playing really traditional games. I mean, really sort of fun games that we used to play. So I think one of the things that we discovered again, and I met with my team late last night to have a quick recap on some of the learnings from Global Esports Games Mumbai, was really spending the time to understand the community within each of those genre class. Let me just dig a little bit deeper there. Just like if I'm a fan of hockey or squash or cricket, I may not necessarily blend across all of those games. What we're knowing about Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the decisions that I played when I was young to play cricket or rugby was a binary decision. Now we know that young people want to play both. And they want to play all. And they want to play all at the same time. Now, one of the greatest places I'd love to take you to is the training pool, the training swimming pool of the Olympic Games. It's not easy to go to because it's behind the competition pool. But I can tell you one thing that I found fascinating. When I was at a recent Games, I happened to find myself with Tony and Cherie Blair, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and I had a chance to spend some time with them, and I took them to the training pool. It's a fantastic thing because you see the Olympic pool and it's 8 swimmers swimming pretty fast. But when you go to the training pool, it's 1,000 swimmers making a lot of splashing, going up and down training. But what interested me when I looked over at the sidelines while they were waiting for competition is, and you see it in every airport in the world, every Olympian playing games on their phone or on their console or chilling out or taking some rest or preparing mentally for their zone, often with headphones in, being really in their zone. You see it. You see it everywhere. So I think to answer you, Ashish, the question was, we cannot assume that all Gen Z is the same. We cannot assume that all Gen Alpha is the same. We cannot assume that all Gen X is the same. So we have to spend the time to understand the consumer. And that is the secret to either content that's readily consumed or content that's rejected.
Thank you very much. We do have some more questions for you in terms of the incubation fund and the other fund that you talked about. We'll take that offline, but I would like to now invite Sonal to take the proceedings forward. Thank you so much.
As we move ahead, let's have a presentation of the key findings of the FICCI EY Media Entertainment Report by Ashish Ferwani, partner EY. Sir, please take us through the highlights and the key industry insights for the report. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Privileged to be here, my 9th year doing the report. And I keep telling myself it'll get easier the next year, but that never happens. The industry just keeps changing so fast that every year there's so much more that we need to consider before we can create this report. I'll try and focus on some of the key messages. Perfect. Okay. So I think in terms of just sheer size, we had a pretty poor growth the last 2 years. It was 8% and 5%. This year, there was a good recovery. The industry grew by over 9% to reach 2.8 trillion, that's 2.8 lakh crores. That is an all-time record for the industry. It's the largest ever that the industry has been, but still a long way to go. As I like to say, it's less than 1/4 turnover of Reliance Industries. So it still has a very long way to go, and I'm sure it's going to get there because all the fundamentals are very, very sound right now. But the interesting thing is the graph on the screen. I think you see, we've always said there's a bit of an elastic effect between how per capita GDP grows and the way how advertising and the media industry grow. Now you can see that over the last 2 years, the industry actually grew less than India's nominal per capita GDP. But this year, we've seen that trend reverse again. I think one or two big factors that led to the industry outperforming GDP growth, firstly was the consumption-oriented budget of the government of India. By cutting income taxes, that helped. And secondly, of course, rationalizing GST rates. Along with the overall massive government spends, we had the highest ever capex outlays of the government. We had a lot of direct benefit transfer schemes. All that led to massive growth in consumption, which has shown itself in the media industry as well. And all that capital spend really went into advertising. Advertising grew at its fastest pace across several years at 13%. We had estimated 8 to 10% last year when we were forecasting this year. It went way over that. And I think there were 2 or 3 very interesting trends that came out in advertising. The first is that SME advertisers, the long tail, the 1 million, 1.5 million long tail of advertisers, they increased spends by 30% during the year. That's a huge growth in the long tail. And I was trying to understand why, what happened, why did the SMEs really do this? One interesting number that comes out is that as of December 25, the amount of institutional lending to SMEs has been its highest ever in the history of our country. 1/3 of all lending is now going to SMEs. And I feel that that's possibly the reason why they are investing much more in advertising. The other interesting thing was the growth of ads earned by e-commerce platforms, and not technically media platforms, point of sale platforms, whether it's a Zepto or an Amazon or a Flipkart or a Blinkit or whatever. That grew 50% to 22,000 crores. The interesting thing about this number is that this advertising channel is now 80% of the size of TV advertising in India. So it's been a very, very fast growth. To give you a comparison, pre-COVID, this was 1,000 crores. It's now 22,000 crores. That's the level of growth that this sales channel has actually done. And of course, all this going in digital with search, social, big growth over there as well. Out of the total ad pie of 1.5 lakh crores, digital advertising now commands almost 1 lakh crores. So it's been a massive, massive shift on the advertising side. If you look at the various sectors, it's a bit of a mixed bag. You can see live events growing on the top, and then digital, out-of-home, music and film. The interesting thing is that all 5 of these segments have hit their lifetime highest values. This is the #1 year for 5 segments, which is a rare thing in any report we have released till now. Also, digital media is the first segment to individually cross 1 lakh crores in size. So that's another first time ever. This shows the depth of consumption on digital platforms in this country. Animation and VFX had a slightly tough year because a lot of the work, the pipelines of export was squeezed because of the writer strike, etc. It took some time to build up, but domestic demand kept it going and it still grew a bit. Print against all odds. Every single country degrowing, India, it grows, more on that later. Radio has a bit of an issue because a lot of the new mobile phones come actually without FM receivers. A lot of the cars now coming out don't have physical radio buttons as well. That's causing a bit of an impact. Television on the linear side fell a bit, but made up a lot on the connected TV side and stayed kind of stable. It is still the largest medium in the country. And finally, you have online gaming. That had a deep growth, but that's because real money games were banned for 4 months of the year. If you actually remove the impact of real money gaming and look at only casual gaming or video gaming, that part is grown extremely well at over 13 to 15% in that range this year. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but we are seeing clear trends now shaping the future. Events, 43.5% growth. This was insane. So we have a huge issue, and I have a huge fight every year with the industry association saying how do we size this industry? Because a lot of it is unorganized. In fact, 90% may be unorganized of this industry. But at 14,500 crores, again, it's a huge organized segment that came into being. But what we realized this year was very interesting. The amount of events conducted by radio companies, by news companies, by print companies, reached an all-time high. You can see there's 50 billion rupees over there, that's 5,000 crores worth of event revenues were actually earned by other parts of the media industry. And you have, of course, the huge in-house trainings and conferences and MICE and weddings and parties and personal events, which we try to get a bearing on. It's really difficult. Our estimates say they're about 1,20,000 crores. So itself a very, very big number in terms of how events are shaping this country. Two key numbers on the right side. Firstly, the concert days, the number of days where on each day you had more than 10,000 people attending a paid ticketed event, which was 70 days in 2024, reached 130 days in 2025, almost doubled. That's a key directional move that we're seeing in terms of how ticketed events are growing. And secondly, we did a survey of 100 plus CMOs, and we asked them that are you planning to increase your spends when you use below the line activities like events and activation? A whopping 70% said yes, they are also going to be increasing spends on events because they're seeing the brand association, they're seeing the ability of trial and awareness that it creates. So overall, events on a very strong path. The big story, obviously, the first segment to hit 1 lakh crores is digital. And it was driven a lot by advertising as well as subscription. On the subscription side, from 80 million households to 143 million households. When you compare that with 195 million households reach of TV, now we are seeing SVOD grow increasingly, 70% of TV's reach in terms of premium households. And over 200 million subscriptions. In fact, I was discussing with the folks at Star, I think they peaked at 280 or some million in terms of when the IPL was on, subscriptions went to a record global high, I think second largest in the whole world. I think that was fantastic. But it's not just limited to video. Audio subscription, which was really stagnant in the country, grew 37% last year, and now you have more than 14 million paid audio subscribers in the country. Again, a very Gen Z, Gen Alpha kind of change that's happening. People are willing to pay for better quality audio, they're willing to pay for better playlists, for AI facilities, etc. In fact, we did a very interesting survey of over 5,000 consumers in India, and the results are in the report. You must see that page. It was done with the Indian music industry, the industry body, and it clearly shows the willingness to pay is going up significantly for audio as well. News subscription still tends to lag because there are a lot of free options available. That stays subscale, less than 4 million subscriptions. And like Kevin mentioned in his opening remarks, TV continues to thrive. It's still the largest medium by reach. 745 million is a bizarrely high number, and that's not coming down anytime soon. It's holding very well. On the other side, connected TVs are growing. Our estimate of weekly active connected TVs increased from 30 million last year to 40 million this year. So that's again a 35% growth overall. And when you look at overall ad revenues, they're relatively stable. There is a shift towards connected TV ad revenues on the graph in yellow. But overall advertising holds, even for large screen, there is clearly something good happening out here. Film had, again, a fantastic year, right? 20,500 crore top line, its highest ever. 13,000 crore box office, its highest ever. 37 films joining the 1 crore club in 1 year. its highest ever. It's a fantastic performance after some years by the Indian film industry. But interestingly, both digital rights values and satellite rights values came down, which just shows how important theatrical window is to the overall performance of the film industry. And I think we're going to see a lot more focus on theatrical revenues, especially the way Durandar has been performing for part 1, and even from what I hear in part 2, there's a chance that within 7, 8, 9 days it will cross 1,000 crores already. That's the kind of number, again a world record, an India record all in by itself. Online gaming, tale of two sides, the real money side which got banned in August, and the video game side which continues to grow. So we're going to see a little bit of degrowth because of that, but if you take off the real money ban impact, the industry grew exceptionally well by by around 15% or so. Bit of a reset here for esports because they relied quite heavily on sponsorship funds from some of the real money gaming companies. But we see that evening out over the next year, and we expect healthy growth between 10 and 15% across video games, advertising, in-game advertising, and esports over the next few years. So very healthy projections here as well. Local media had a very interesting year. When you look at radio, the actual share of ad volumes from a local advertiser point of view went up by 4%. Many people still talk about radio as struggling, and we have issues because phones don't have receivers, etc. But the local guys still continue to believe in radio, and they increase their investments. Print media, again, a growth while the rest of the world is degrowing. Print actually changed its story. Over the last 2 years, print has been going out and saying, I can give you affluent audiences who are educated. And that story is working. It's almost impossible for a premium product to launch without jackets on newspapers nowadays. And out of home, another fantastic performance. I think out of home is a story. It just keeps growing as India grows. We now have around 45 cities in India with a population of 1 million, heading to 68 cities by 2030, which will have a 1 million plus population. I think the industry is going into a national network from local agencies where you're going to have national campaigns running a lot more. And Shripal's here, he has 32 plus cities covered with his digital screens. I'm sure he's going to expand that significantly. I mean, it's going to become a national model very soon, and we expect to see significant growth happening out there. Interestingly, of all the revenues earned by out of home, almost 18% came from digital inventory. And the ability now for a digital advertiser, when they're going to buy search and social, to also pick up out of home inventory on the same platform, I think that's going to create a revolution over the next 2-3 years in terms of how many more SME advertisers come onto outdoor in India. It's going to be a big shift. Looking ahead, 8 key trends from me. The first is TV homes will continue to grow. Okay, now it's great. We have 3 Ashishas on the platform. This is the most blessed event you can ever have. All right, I'll just continue and quickly. TV will continue to grow. We estimate it's going to reach about 204 million homes by 2028. At the same time, subscription video on demand will also grow, reaching over 190 million households in India. So again, catching up with TV. Music, from 14.4 million paid subscriptions, we expect it to double within 3 years. This should be a very interesting time for music, to 28 to 30 million paid subscriptions. And as Paul was mentioning, the export potential of game development is very critical for India. What Ashish also said, that he's planning to go from 800 game developers to 5,000 game developers, studios, in the country. GDAI estimates we are already at $1 billion of export revenues from game development and services, and that is expected to grow at least to 2.8 billion in their estimate by 2028. In terms of the AVGC industry, I think work is coming in more and more now from the West. Again, export revenues, but also increased use of VFX in Indian productions, in films, in OTT series. We see at least a 13% CAGR on the AVGC side. Very, very healthy growth expected there. The micro drama industry, and this is a sign of how bad consultants get it wrong. We never even saw this coming last year. And this year it's already there at 7 billion. We expect revenues from here to triple in the next 3 years to 23 billion rupees, 2,300 crores. Out of home, from 18% of revenues will keep growing to about 25% of revenues as the industry grows at a healthy 9% CAGR. And finally, advertising. Our estimate is a healthy CAGR of 8.7% to 9.5% for the next 3 years. So overall, an extremely healthy sign, which will take the industry from 2.78 trillion to 3.3 trillion in 3 years in 2028. The interesting thing about media in 28 is 3 things. One, 53% of revenues will come from the new media versus 47% from traditional media. India will be serving 875 million screens in 2028.
चॅनल अजूनही आपण सबस्क्राईब केलं नसेल तर जरूर ताबडतोब सबस्क्राईब करा, लाईक करा, शेअर करा आणि आपल्या अमूल्य प्रतिक्रिया दीपक शेडगे यूट्यूब चॅनलच्या इनबॉक्स मध्ये अवश्य पाठवा.